awkward if I'd come in here and hugged somebody today. Would have been awkward for me too. But, you know, and you find, you learn who are the huggers and who are not. Now, have you ever heard about turning a hug into a handshake? It's really easy. You know, if someone's coming at you, hi, how are you? You can just kind of put your arm around their shoulder, guide their arm, and shake it. Usually if Brad Bear's here, we demonstrate that. But, you know, you can do that. You can turn it into something a little more comfortable and not make the other person feel uncomfortable as well. I think things that we talked about, that second category of creating a hostile, intimidating, offensive environment, I think things like gender harassment. You know, how often have we heard those generalized statements? Blondes are dumb. Women can't be serious scientists. All figure skaters are gay. And I apologize to figure skaters. I'm very active with the Broadmoor Skating Club. I'm actually a board member. And so I hear those kinds of comments. But generalized statements, graffiti, obscene jokes, or humor could all create that hostile, intimidating, or offensive environment. I know the faculty love me because I use an example of a faculty member who perhaps starts every class with an obscene joke. First time he or she does it, everyone kind of laughs, doesn't know what to do. So they go, oh, I'll do this every class. So it happens on Monday, it happens on Wednesday, it happens again. Finally, someone comes and goes, whoa, this is making me uncomfortable. You know, that could be one of those, you know, statements, those obscene jokes, those whatevers. And I'll tell you a little bit what we do if we receive a complaint or a concern. I think also one of the things that is really important is some topics should not be the subject of jokes. And I think a person's sexuality and sexual orientation are two of those things. Yes?
A quick comment, and I think this is a good time to put that in there. This actually happened to our fraternity earlier this year when one of our members made a comment, not realizing that it came across the way it did to a student here at the school that was gay, or whatever, I think, and they filed a sexual harassment case, and we had to leave the campus for that day. We were recruiting, and it just kind of made us as a whole look bad when in reality it was just one person's action, which between ourselves is fine, whatever, but you got to realize that we represent everybody, and so you know that one person's comment really did kind of have an impact on our entire fraternity. And for those of you who know what happened, you know what I'm talking about. This is just right here, it went right along these lines right here. So.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, one of the things, Rosemary Augustine is our sexual harassment officer here on campus. Back in August, there was an article, and I think that's my next slide, about Brad Pitt poking fun at George Clooney. Did anyone see this? Well, I mean, as Rosemary and I are walking across campus to a meeting, you know, she like almost stopped and took me by the shoulders and was shaking me going, you've got to use this in all of the student training. You know, it was really interesting. Whether Brad Pitt was poking fun at the rumors, whether Brad Pitt was outing his friend, I don't know what was going on here, but supposedly Brad and Angelina have said they will not get married until same-sex marriage is recognized. And so he also went further and said we won't get married until George and his significant other can get married. You know, I don't know if that's appropriate for movie stars. I just don't think it's appropriate. You know, it was really interesting that it was in the news, and I think it goes right along those lines.
Well, and these, with the TV we watch now, and like even radio jokes, and I think that it's become very common, but it still has an effect on the individual. And you just got to be careful with what you say with people you don't know. If someone says something to me, and I know them, and it's most likely not going to make me feel uncomfortable, we might laugh about it, whatever. But if it makes you uncomfortable, you have to speak up. The thing is, not everyone's going to speak up and let you know that it makes them feel uncomfortable, and they very well might go file something. I mean, as long as you have in the back of your mind, anything I say, this, you know that it could be used against you. You know that if this could be filed, then I probably shouldn't say it. You know, I'm just speaking about you guys because you represent Kappa Sigma. So, you know, it's just kind of a serious thing because it really did. You know, it kind of made us take a step backward. It caused more. And I think he meant it with the best of intentions. Whatever he said wasn't nasty and it wasn't hostile. It was fun and lighthearted,
if you're in one of those situations, and I mean, if you get that sense that someone's uncomfortable, and you don't know, if someone doesn't say, that really makes me uncomfortable, then it's hard. But if you get that sense if someone suddenly stiffens up or the conversation stops, you might just want to stop and go, whoa, I'm sorry, did I offend you?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with just trying to open up the dialogue at that point in time. I like to talk about different potential areas of concern for students. I think, work environment is another concern. We talked a little bit about the social networking, online kinds of things, classrooms, and just generally. All of these could be areas of concern. Not that I think people are out there harassing. I can tell you, the end of my presentation, I tell you, and I'll tell you now, claims of sexual harassment or complaints of sexual harassment have gone down on this campus. And they've gone down CU system-wide. It's not because we're ignoring it. I believe it's because we have the opportunity to go out there and talk to everyone and let people know what to do if they encounter it or how to handle it. But these all could be potential areas. We reach out to students who are traveling, and I was asking Mike during the break if you guys ever asked for funding from the university for travel. Because one of the things that we do is we meet with all student groups that are traveling, receiving funding, and talk about preventing sexual harassment. We also talk about safety issues when traveling. But these are all areas that I would hope students are thinking about. Just how can I make sure that I'm safe? How can I make sure that I'm not the victim? And how do I make sure I'm not offending anybody? We talked a little bit about classroom, field trips, group projects. Sometimes when I'm meeting with students, I use a scenario of, how many of you have had to do group projects for your classes? I mean, I think that is the way that, yes. Yes, my daughter just graduated in May. Oh my gosh, if I heard one story, I heard 50 million stories about group projects. But I'll use a scenario where there are, John and Mary, and my apologies to the Johns. My first name is Mary, so but I use a scenario where we have two members of a group project, and Mary's been a real slacker. She's done absolutely nothing in the project, and then she asks John out and says, if you don't go out with me, I'll give you a poor peer evaluation. Could that be sexual harassment?
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I've had people suggest, well, I'll just give a poor peer evaluation back. That doesn't really solve the problem. What would you do in that scenario?